Hi everybody, I hope that you're all doing really well. So today I am back to do the end of the year book tag. I feel like on BookTube there is a little bit of confusion as to when we are meant to do this tag. I've seen some people doing it in June, and to me, like, the idea of doing an end of the year book tag in June just seems a little bit premature. But then in previous years I've seen people doing this tag in December, but there is a question on it about autumnal transitional books, and it's like, well, we're out of autumn now, what to do? So I feel like now is quite a safe time to do it. You know, there's still 6 or 7 weeks left of the year, but I can still answer the questions on autumnal transitional reading, so yay, let's get into the questions. Question number 1 is, are there any books you started this year that you need to finish? So for me, last month I started reading The Watchmaker of Filigree Street by Natasha Pulley, and I got about halfway through this. I'm 154 pages in and kind of put it down for a week or so, so definitely want to pick this up and finish it soon. Aside from that, I don't really have any books that I have picked up and then put down and just haven't been back to. I did attempt to start War and Peace a little while ago, but I've kind of like shelved that for now, and I definitely am not going to be reading that before the end of the year. Are you crazy? I know that me and Kieran over at KD Books have got some big reading plans, which I don't know when we're going to start on those. We've got plans to read Les Miserables by Victor Hugo, which is a reread for me. I think it's a first read for Kieran, and also to read Ulysses. I'd kind of like half jokingly, half seriously said that maybe we should read back to back, and then it'll be like a pick your poison read along for the last 2 months of the year. We've not started on either of them yet, so I doubt that we're going to be reading these 2 monstrosities of books. But Kieran, do let me know what you want to do, which one you want to start with, because I'm happy to do either. Editing Charlotte popping in here to say that there's also the 3 books that I started reading in my Chaya chapter video, which neither of them I have finished reading, so there's those, which are Where the Crawdads Sing, 3 Women by Lisa Taddeo, and Wife After Wife, which was the Henry VIII modern retelling, which I do still really want to read, but I wanted to kind of vlog my experience of reading that, turn that into a reading vlog, and it be kind of like a history graduate reacts to Henry VIII retelling, and yeah, I just haven't gotten around to actually doing that yet, so need to do that. Question number 2 is, do you have an autumnal book to transition into the end of the year? So I feel like my main autumnal transitional book has been A Poem for Every Autumn Day, which is edited by Allie Esiri and is basically 2 poems for every day of the year. These are taken from the original Pan Macmillan poetry collections, which was a poem for every day of the year and a poem for every night of the year. They've basically collected them and are now releasing them in seasonal editions. So we've now got the autumn one. I think the winter one has just been published, and that's really pretty. I'll just put it here. And they've also recently released the date and the artwork for the Poem for Every Spring Day and Poem for Every Summer Day, and I'm just like, they're so pretty. So definitely this autumn book, and I think the winter book will definitely get me in the mood for the upcoming seasons. Aside from those, I've said in the past, I don't tend to be the most seasonal reader, especially when it comes to autumn, because in autumn it tends to be, you know, like creepy books that people like to read to get in the mood for Halloween, and I don't do scary things. I don't like scary books, I don't like scary movies. Like, I can do a little bit of a creepy atmosphere, but it's not my favourite thing in the world. Unfortunately, I'm a bit of a scaredy cat, so Though I do have a couple of books that could maybe fit into that kind of vibe. I've got The Familiars by Stacey Halls, and I've got this beautiful, like, older edition of Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. Once again, another thing that I found in a charity shop because they were selling it for 25 pence. And I think it was from 1970, so like a little 50-year-old edition of Rebecca. Question number 3 is there a new release that you're still waiting for? And the answer to that is yes, there are 2 books that I am definitely waiting for. The first one being The Betrayals by Bridget Collins. As you will probably know if you've been watching my channel for a little while, I am a massive fan of the book The Binding by Bridget Collins, so I've basically vowed that I'm going to read anything that she writes. Despite the fact that, to be honest, when I look at the plot of The Betrayals, it doesn't seem like my typical read at all, but then at the same time, The Binding wasn't really my typical read at all, and I loved it, so I want to give it a good shot. And then the second book that I'm really anticipating is Ian Mortimer's The Time Traveller's Guide to Regency Britain. As you all know from my review on The Outcasts of Time, which was Ian Mortimer's fiction book, I am a massive fan of this author and his Time Traveller's Guide series. The idea behind the series kind of being like a historical guidebook. If you were plopped into a particular time period, what would you see, what would you do, what would you eat, where would you sleep, where would you live? But also peppered in are like facts and big events that took place just to give you some context for the time period. Previously, he has done The Time Traveller's Guide to Medieval England, The Time Traveller's Guide to Elizabethan England, and most recently The Time Traveller's Guide to Restoration Britain. And now we've got the Regency period. And as you will know from me gushing about Jane Austen, I'm a bit of a fan of this time period, so I'm really, really keen to see what he does. That being said, as it currently stands, I own these books in these beautiful little paperbacks and they all match and it's very, very neat. So I don't know, do I get it now because I'm excited for it, or do I wait for it to go out in paperback, which I'm sure it will soon? I don't know. Question number 4 is, what are the 3 books you want to read by the end of the year? So, let me have a look at my TBR. So definitely top priority book for me to read by the end of the year is Troy by Stephen Fry. This recently came out and it is the 3rd installment in Stephen Fry's Greek myth retellings. Previously published were Mythos, which focuses on tales surrounding the Greek gods, and then Heroes, which, as the title suggests, focuses more on the heroes like Heracles, Jason and the Argonauts, Theseus and the Minotaur, Icarus, all that lot. Whereas this installment focuses on the legendary Trojan War. Next book that I definitely want to get to by the end of the year, quite predictably, is the 2nd installment in the Penguin Monarch series. This is Ethelred the Unready, The Failed King, written by Richard Abels. I keep on wanting to say Peter, and I know it's not Peter, it's Richard Abels. So I think my previous video that will have just gone up is my 1st installment, which was on Athelstan, and I was really excited to just finally have read and filmed my video on that book. So I'm really, really glad. I'm really proud of it. And I'm glad to see that a lot of you seem to really enjoy it as well. So I definitely want to get at least one more up by the end of the year. And this is my next one. I'm doing it in chronological order. In an ideal world, I'd really, really like to try to get through the early medieval pre-Norman Conquest King. So it would be this, it would be Canute, and it would be Edward the Confessor that I would still have to do, and I'd love to have got those done by the end of the year, but I can't promise that. I don't necessarily know if I'm going to do that. So definitely, at the very least, want to get Ethelred the Unready done very soon. And then the 3rd book that I really want to get to by the end of the year is Natives, Race and Class in the Ruins of Empire by Akala. Definitely, if I do not get this read by the end of Non-Fiction November, I definitely want to get this read in December, because I just think this is going to be really, really timely, really relevant, and just give really poignant nuggets of information as well as personal anecdotes from living in Britain. And I really want to read it. Question number 5 is there a book that you think could still shock you and become your favourite book of the year? To be honest with you, I know that I'm quite a bit of a harsh reader. I can get bored by a book easily, and for me it has to be something really, really special for me to absolutely be floored by a book and to want to give it 5 stars and to say that it's one of my favourite books of all time, or even just of the year. So I'm not really confident that I'm going to be shocked by any of the books that are on my TBR and that they will rise to being my favourite book of the year. And at the moment, between things like The Other Bennet Sister and my Elizabeth Gaskell and the Wolf Hall trilogy, there's quite steep competition there. And I don't really want to pick out any of the books that are currently on my TBR because I don't want to put pressure on that particular book. I am open for something to surprise me. I want something to surprise me and become a new favourite book, but I am not really confident that it will. And then finally, question number 6 is, have you already started making reading plans for 2021? And the answer to that is yes, I have kind of started making plans for my reading in 2021, but I am planning on making that a video for my Vlogmas. You know, I've got some loose ideas of things that I would quite like to do. I don't know necessarily if I would get to all of them, and I'd like to kind of solidify them a little bit more in my head before I actually speak them out loud. But you know, you got to stick around in December and then maybe you'll get some insight into what I want to do in 2021. I'm actually quite excited about the idea of doing Vlogmas. I've already got one video which I have filmed, edited and uploaded already, which sounds really impressive and productive, but it's not one where I had to speak in front of the camera. But you know, progress towards getting these videos up in December is progress, so I'm quite proud. But anyway, those are all of the questions in the end of the year book tag. Do let me know what you think of any of the books that I've mentioned, and do let me know about any of your answers to these questions. Are there any books that you are really keen to get to before the end of the year? Do let me know. I'd love to hear from you. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks. Bye!